Welcome to the QuickPro camera guide for the Canon T6s. This guide is meant to be a study tool to be used in connection with and not a replacement of your camera's owner's manual. The T6s is a great camera that will capture amazing images as well as HD video. Let's get started. Your T6s has many sophisticated buttons and dials, and to take the best pictures with your camera, you want to be familiar with the functions of each of them. Let's begin by taking a closer look at many of the camera's features. Let's first take a look at the top of the camera. First, there is the power switch, which can be set to off, on, or movie. This is the mode dial. To rotate the mode dial, you'll need to press and hold this lock-release button. By rotating the mode dial, you can tell the camera what exposure settings to use. This section of the mode dial has the basic zone modes. In these modes, the camera will do all of the work for you. All you need to do is point and shoot. These modes include the Scene Intelligent Auto, Flash Off, Creative Auto, Portrait, Landscape, Close-Up, Sports, and Special Scene. To access the modes that are available within the Special Scene mode, press the Quick Control button. Here, you can rotate the main dial or Quick Control dial to scroll through the different modes. To view all of the options, press the Set button and use the Quick Control dial to make your selection. Here, you can choose from Kids, Food, Candlelight, Night Portrait, Handheld Night Scene, and HDR Backlight Control. This section of the mode dial has the creative zones. When you use the creative zone modes, you'll choose many of the camera's settings. These zones are more advanced, but with a little practice, they can produce amazing results. The creative zone modes include Program Auto Exposure, Shutter Priority, Aperture Priority, and Manual. Next, there is the hot shoe, where you can attach a variety of external flash units. This is the built-in flash, which will provide extra light in low light conditions. This is the AF area selection button, which will allow you to choose which AF area method you'd like the camera to use. This is the ISO button, which will allow you to select the ISO setting. This is the LCD panel illumination button, which will light the top LCD panel. This is the LCD panel, which displays many of the camera's settings. This is the main dial, which is used to adjust exposure settings, as well as access a variety of options in the camera's menu system and displays. And this is the shutter button. To take a picture, simply press this button halfway down to allow the camera to focus, and then press it the rest of the way to take the picture. Now let's take a look at this side of the camera. This is the flash button. The flash will pop up automatically in several of the basic zones, and you can press the flash button to make the flash pop up in the creative zones. Pressing this button will also bring up the built-in flash settings menu on the LCD monitor. This is one of the built-in stereo microphones. Take care not to cover the microphones during movie recording. Here we'll find the lens release button. To remove a lens, press the lens release button while holding the camera with the same hand, and then with the other hand, rotate the lens until it uncouples. To attach a lens, make sure that the camera is switched to off. Hold the camera with one hand and the lens with the other like this. Align the lens's index with the camera's index of the same color. Then gently rotate the lens until it clicks into place. Take great care not to scratch the lens by allowing it to make contact with anything. When you need to clean your lens, it's a good idea to use a lens cloth. Other fabrics can dull or scratch your lens. Avoid changing lenses in windy or dusty conditions. This will help the image sensor stay clean and free of dust. This is the depth of field preview button. You can press and hold this button while looking through the viewfinder to see the effect of the aperture setting before you take the picture. These are the terminal covers, which will allow you to connect the camera to a variety of other devices, including an optional remote control, an external microphone for movie recording, a computer, compatible printer or standard definition TV, or an HD TV. This is the speaker, which will play back sound in movie playback. Now let's take a look at this side of the camera. Here we'll find the memory card slot cover. When you're inserting a memory card, you'll want to make sure that the manufacturer's logo is facing the back of the camera. Simply insert the card until it clicks into place and close the card slot cover. Before you start taking pictures with a new memory card, it's a good idea to format it. Also, keep in mind that your camera will operate faster if you periodically format your memory card rather than simply deleting images from it to free up space for more picture taking. Make sure that you don't format your card unless you've already copied the images that you want to save to your computer. Formatting your card will erase all the images. To format the memory card, press the menu button. Next, use either the quick control dial or the touch screen to select the first setup menu. Select Format Card and press OK. This is the remote control sensor, which allows an optional remote control to communicate with the camera. This is the red eye reduction self-timer lamp, and this is the other built-in stereo microphone. Now let's take a look at the back of the camera. The most prominent feature is the fully articulated touchscreen monitor. When rotating or tilting the LCD monitor, note that it will pivot, tilt, and rotate in specific directions, and forcing the monitor in a direction other than intended may cause damage. This sophisticated monitor can be controlled using the camera's buttons and dials, and almost all of the functions can also be controlled using the touchscreen. In this guide, we'll discuss using the controls primarily with the buttons and dials, but note that you can also use the touchscreen for most functions. This monitor serves several purposes. When the playback button is pressed, it displays images that have been taken. Using the camera's quick control dial, you can scroll through the images on the memory card. You can also simply swipe the touchscreen to scroll through the images. When the quick control button is pressed, the LCD monitor provides fast and easy access to many of the camera's settings in the quick control screen. When the menu button is pressed, the LCD monitor displays the camera's menu system, where you can change many important settings in the camera. Finally, when the Live View button is pressed or the power switch is set to Movie, the LCD monitor provides a live view of the scene. Directly above the LCD monitor is the viewfinder, where you can see camera settings when you're taking pictures. Before you start taking pictures, you'll want to focus the viewfinder. To do this, use the dioptric adjustment knob located to the right of the eye cup. Rotate the dial until the automatic focus points in the viewfinder are in sharp focus. At the bottom of the viewfinder display, you can see the shutter speed, aperture, and ISO settings, as well as the exposure meter in the creative zone modes, the maximum burst or the number of photos that you can take without waiting for the camera to catch up, and the focus confirmation light. Over the scene, you will see the camera's focus points. When the shutter button is pressed halfway to focus, the area where the focus points appear in black will be in focus. This is the menu button, which provides access to the camera's menu system. And this is the info button. In the camera's shooting, playback, and live view modes, pressing this button will display helpful information. We'll discuss more about the camera's display settings later in this guide. This is the Live View Movie Shooting button. When the mode dial is set to any of the shooting modes, you can press this button to use the camera's live view feature. When the power switch is set to Movie, pressing this button will start and end movie recording. This button has two functions. First, it is the AE lock button. When the shutter button is pressed and held halfway down, you can press the AE lock button to lock the exposure while you recompose the image. This button also serves as the index reduce button in the camera's playback mode. This button also serves two functions. First, it is the AF point selection button. Pressing this button will allow you to select the AF point that you'd like to use. This button is also the magnify button in the camera's playback mode. This is the memory card access lamp, which indicates that the memory card is being read or written to. When this lamp is lit, do not open the card slot cover or remove the battery. This is the quick control button, which will provide access to the camera's settings when you're using one of the camera's shooting modes. After you've pressed the quick control button, you can use the touch screen or quick control dial to navigate to different camera settings. To change a setting, press the Set button to view the options. We'll discuss the quick control screen in greater detail later in this guide. This is the Playback button, which will allow you to view images on the memory card. This is the Set button, which is used to confirm selections in the menus and quick control screen. As we've discussed, this is the quick control dial. It's used for navigating the menu system, scrolling through images in Playback, and accessing information in the shooting settings display. The top, bottom, and sides of the quick control dial also have additional functions. The top of the quick control dial provides access to the white balance settings. The right side of the dial provides access to the camera's autofocus settings. The bottom of the dial will display the picture style options. And the left side of the dial will display the camera's drive mode options. Below the quick control dial, you'll find the Erase button, which you can use to remove images from the memory card. This is the multifunction lock. When it's switched to the right, the main dial and the quick control dial will be disabled to prevent them from changing a setting inadvertently. Your T6s has a variety of image quality and size settings that will allow you to capture images with the resolution, file format, and compression that you need for your scenario. Let's first take a moment to talk about the camera's image quality and image size options. Your Canon T6s can record image files in two different image quality settings, or file types, RAW and JPEG. First, there is the RAW file format. RAW files are not actually image files. They're actually the raw data saved to the memory card directly from the image sensor. This means that RAW files must be processed on the computer before they're printed. Next, RAW file sizes are considerably larger than JPEG files. RAW files have a much broader range of tones. Shadow and highlight areas have more detail than other image files, and you can extensively edit RAW files without losing image data. The other image quality setting on the T6s is JPEG. JPEG files are a standard compressed file format that is supported by any image software. Because JPEG files are compressed, the file sizes are very small compared to RAW files, but they also have a much narrower range of tones and will lose some image data each time they're saved. Let's take a look now at how to choose the image quality and size settings on the T6s. First, we'll press the menu button. The first menu item in the first shooting menu is Image Quality. Use the touchscreen, main dial, or quick control dial, and the Set button to make your selection. You'll notice that for each of the large, medium, and small quality settings, there are two icons. This icon indicates the fine quality JPEG format with lower compression. When the fine quality option is selected, JPEG images will have less compression and a little better image quality. This icon indicates the normal quality JPEG with high compression. When the normal quality option is selected, JPEG images will have higher compression and a little lower image quality. Both formats will use the same number of pixels to record the image. The only difference is the compression of the file. For all of the image quality settings, the camera will show you the number of megapixels the camera will use to record the photo, the pixel count, and the number of shots that you'll be able to fit on the memory card with that image quality setting. The large quality settings use all 24 megapixels. The medium settings use 11 megapixels, and the small settings use 5.9 megapixels. The S2 and S3 settings use 2.5 and 0.3 megapixels respectively. These lower quality JPEG settings are useful if you know that you'll only be using the files for email, but I generally like to use the highest quality JPEG setting. The last two options are the RAW quality options for the T6s. The first RAW quality option is RAW plus large fine quality JPEG. When you use this setting, the camera will record a fine quality JPEG in addition to the RAW image file. The other RAW option records only one RAW image file. One of the most important concepts in photography is exposure, or the amount of light that falls on the camera's image sensor or film. A properly exposed photo will have good detail in the shadow, midtone, and highlight areas. Photos that are too bright are overexposed, and photos that are too dark are underexposed. The camera uses metering modes to determine proper exposure settings. There are 4 different metering modes on the T6s. The camera's metering modes can be selected in the creative zones only. To access the camera's metering modes, press the Quick Control or tap the Quick Control icon to access the Quick Control screen. And use the touchscreen or Quick Control dial and the Set button to select the metering mode icon. The first metering mode is called Evaluative Metering. This is a great general use metering mode that can be used in most shooting scenarios. When this mode is selected, the camera will divide the scene into zones. Then the camera measures the shadows and the highlights in each zone and averages all of the zones. Then the camera uses that average to set the exposure automatically to suit the scene. This is a good mode to use for many situations, but sometimes when the scene is very bright or very dark, you may want to use a different metering mode. The next mode is partial metering. This is effective when the background is much brighter than the subject due to backlighting. Partial metering covers a small section of the viewfinder area at the center. Spot metering is for metering a specific part of the subject or scene. This metering is weighted at the center, covering a smaller section of the viewfinder area than partial metering. The last mode is center-weighted average metering. Center-weighted metering functions much like evaluative metering, with zones being evaluated and averaged. But with center-weighted metering, the zones that are in the center area of the frame are given the greatest weight. The zones that are outside of the center area of the frame are taken into account as well, but these zones are given much less priority when determining exposure. Center-weighted metering is a classic mode used for portraits. Now that you know a little about how your camera sees and measures light to create properly exposed photos, let's talk a little about the shooting modes on the T6s. To select a shooting mode, simply press and hold the lock release and rotate the mode dial. With the basic zone modes, the camera chooses everything for you. All you need to do is point and shoot. First, there is the Scene Intelligent Auto mode. With this mode, the camera will quickly assess the scene and set the best settings automatically. To take a picture in this mode, simply press the shutter button halfway to allow the camera to focus. The focus point or points that achieve focus will appear in black in the viewfinder and green in live view. If needed, the flash will pop up automatically. Then simply press the shutter button the rest of the way to take the picture. The next mode is Flash Off. This mode functions in the same way as the auto mode, except that the flash is disabled. Use this mode in places where flash photography is prohibited or inappropriate. This mode is also a good mode to use for candlelight scenes or if you want to create streaks of light for creative effect. The next mode is Creative Auto. This is a similar mode to Scene Intelligent Auto, but with this mode, you'll have creative control over several camera settings. To access and change the settings for the Creative Auto mode, make sure that the mode dial is set to CA and then press the Quick Control button. At the top of the screen, you can select the Ambient setting. We'll discuss more about ambient settings in Chapter 8 of this guide. You can also adjust the level of background blur or depth of field, and below that there are settings for the drive mode and the flash mode. On the left side of the screen, you can enable or disable the Extra Effect shot. When enabled, the Extra Effect shot will allow you to take one photo and the camera will automatically save 2 images. One image will have the standard setting and one will have the selected effect applied. You can use the touchscreen to rotate the main dial to choose from creative filters, picture styles, and ambient settings for the Extra Effect shot. You can also register 2 different effects as favorites, which makes it faster to select an extra effect that you frequently use. To do this, simply select the desired effect using the main dial or touchscreen and take a picture. During image review and playback, the Extra Effect shot icon will be displayed. Tap the icon or press Set to view the options. Here, you can use the Quick Control dial and Set button or tap one of these icons to register Favorite Effect 1 or Favorite Effect 2. Now let's take a look at the Portrait, Landscape, Close-Up, and Sports modes. When any of these modes are selected, you can adjust several camera settings by pressing the Quick Control button. Just as with the Creative Auto mode, the first setting you can adjust is the Ambient setting. Below that, you can choose a setting to match the type of light or scene that you're shooting in. And at the bottom of the screen, you can choose from the available drive and flash modes for that mode. First, there is the Portrait mode. Use this mode when you want the subject to be in focus and the background to be blurred. The next mode is the Landscape mode. Use this mode when you want everything in the foreground and the background to be in sharp focus. The camera will adjust the shutter speed to get the proper exposure. In this setting, the shutter speed can get pretty slow, so be sure to steady your camera or use a tripod to avoid camera shake. Next, there is the Close-Up mode, which is great for photographing small objects. Use this mode at the lens's minimum focusing distance. To capture fast-moving subjects, select the Sports mode. Note that this mode works best outdoors with plenty of light. The next mode on the mode dial is Special Scene. With this mode, there are 6 special scene modes for certain types of shooting scenarios. To access the special scene modes, make sure that the mode dial is set to Special Scene. Then press the Quick Control button or tap the Quick Control icon. To see all of the options, press Set to select the mode you'd like, rotate the main dial or Quick Control dial. The first special scene mode is Kids, which is great for capturing images of active children. In this mode, you can also select the Ambient setting, the Light Scene setting, the Drive mode, and the Flash setting. Next, there is the Food mode. With this mode, you can capture striking images of food. In addition to the Ambient setting, Drive mode, and Flash setting, the Food Special Scene mode also allows you to adjust the color tone. Place the cursor at the left side of the scale to make the image appear cooler, with more blue tones, and place the cursor to the right side of the scale to make the image appear warmer, with more yellow and red tones. The next special scene mode is Candlelight. With this mode, you can capture images in candlelight or similar lighting conditions while preserving the atmosphere of the image. You can make adjustments to the ambience, color tone, and drive mode for this scene mode. The next special mode is Night Portrait mode. This mode is designed to capture your subject and obtain a natural-looking exposure in the background. In order for the subject to be well lit, the flash will fire. Hold the camera very still or support it with a tripod. The next mode is Handheld Night Scene mode. With this mode, the camera will take 4 shots at very high speed and combine them in camera to produce an image with minimized blur due to camera shake. When you're using this mode, hold the camera very still while the 4 shots are being taken. The last special scene mode on the T6s is the HDR Backlight Control mode. With this mode, the camera will capture 3 shots at high speed and combine them to create a final image with improved detail in shadow and highlight areas. This is a great mode to use when you're taking pictures with bright light shining behind the subject. Now let's take a look at the more advanced shooting modes on the T6s. The first mode is called Program Auto Exposure, and it's represented with a P on the mode dial. In this mode, the camera automatically adjusts shutter speed and aperture for optimal exposure, but you can change the aperture and shutter speed combinations to suit your needs. With the Program AE mode, you will also have full control over the camera's ISO, focus mode, drive mode, and flash settings. To operate in this mode, press and hold the lock release and rotate the mode dial to P. You can monitor the aperture and shutter speed in the viewfinder, on the top LCD panel, or in the LCD monitor. If you would like to change the aperture and shutter speed combination, rotate the main dial. To adjust the exposure compensation, rotate the Quick Control dial. Placing the cursor at the minus side of the scale will make the image darker, and placing the cursor at the plus side of the scale will make the image brighter. When you're finished using exposure compensation, you'll want to place it back to 0. The next setting on the mode dial is the TV or shutter priority mode. TV stands for time value. The shutter priority mode is useful for times when you want to control motion in a scene, whether it's freezing action or blurring the motion of the subject. In this mode, you'll set the shutter speed and the camera will automatically select the correct aperture value. To use the camera in shutter priority mode, set the mode dial to TV. Rotate the main dial to select the shutter speed. To set the shutter speed with the touchscreen, tap the Q at the bottom corner of the screen. Then tap the shutter speed setting. You can swipe the screen to select any shutter speed value. If needed, you can rotate the quick control dial to adjust the overall brightness of the image. Now, simply press the shutter button halfway to focus and the rest of the way to take the picture. The next shooting mode is the AV or aperture priority mode. The aperture priority mode is useful for times when you want to control the depth of field in an image. Depth of field is the term used to describe the distance between the nearest and farthest objects in a scene that appear acceptably sharp in an image. When only a small area or subject in an image is in focus, it's said to have a shallow depth of field. This effect is achieved by using a smaller f-stop number. When everything in both the foreground and background is in focus, an image is said to have a long depth of field. For a long depth of field, choose a large f-stop number. When you're shooting in aperture priority mode, you'll set the aperture and the camera will automatically select the correct shutter speed for proper exposure. To use this mode, select AV on the mode dial. To select an aperture value, rotate the main dial. Note that you can also use the touchscreen to select the aperture value in the same way as selecting the shutter speed. You can use the exposure compensation to adjust the brightness of the image if needed. Once you've made your selections, press the shutter button halfway to focus and the rest of the way to take the picture. The next shooting mode is manual mode. This mode gives you complete control of the camera. In manual mode, you will set both the shutter speed and aperture to create the exposure. To operate the camera in manual mode, select M on the mode dial. To set the shutter speed, rotate the main dial. To set the aperture, rotate the quick control dial. To select the shutter speed and aperture with the touchscreen, simply tap the Q at the bottom corner of the monitor. Tap the setting you'd like to adjust and swipe to make your selection. You can also use the on-screen arrow buttons at the top of the screen. Now, press the shutter button halfway to activate the exposure meter. You can see the exposure meter on the top LCD panel, LCD monitor, or through the viewfinder. If the indicator is toward the plus side of the scale, the image will be overexposed. If the indicator is toward the minus side of the scale, the image will be underexposed. When the exposure level indicator is near the center of the scale, the image should be properly exposed. You can choose just the right aperture and shutter speed combination for your scene, whether you want to freeze action or create a very shallow depth of field. Make the necessary adjustments to the aperture and shutter speed and press the shutter button halfway down to focus and the rest of the way down to take the picture. In addition to aperture and shutter speed, the camera's ISO setting will have a significant impact on whether your images are properly exposed. The ISO sets the image sensor's sensitivity to light. The higher the number, the less light that is required to properly expose the image sensor. You can either have the camera automatically choose the sensitivity or you can set it manually. To set the ISO on the T6s, press the ISO button and set the ISO by rotating the main dial or quick control dial while watching the LCD monitor or top LCD panel. You can also set the ISO by pressing the quick control button or tapping the quick control icon and using the quick control screen. You can select ISO Auto, and you can also choose from ISOs ranging from 100 to 12,800. The T6s has a new ISO feature that is great for capturing images with very little noise in low light situations. This feature is called multi-shot noise reduction. When enabled, multi-shot noise reduction will capture 4 images at very high speed and combine them to create a final image with reduced digital noise. To set up your camera to use multi-shot noise reduction, enter the camera's menu system and navigate to the third shooting menu. Here, select High ISO Speed Noise Reduction, and then Multi-Shot Noise Reduction, and press Set. Now, press the shutter button halfway down to focus and the rest of the way to take the picture. In this mode, it's important to hold the camera steady while it captures all 4 images. The camera will process the images to create a final image with significantly reduced digital noise. The image sensor on the T6s will allow you to use very high ISO settings and still have great images. Keep in mind, however, that some very high ISO settings will introduce digital noise or grain into your images. You'll want to experiment with the camera's ISO settings to become familiar with their range and control. Here's a guide that will help you have a basic idea of what ISO settings to use in various situations. When you're outdoors in full sun, use ISO 100 to 200. In the shade, on an overcast day, or indoors with lots of window light, use ISO 400. ISOs 800 and higher should be used indoors for action shots or in other low light conditions. Now that we've discussed shooting modes and ISO settings, let's take a minute to talk about the camera's drive modes. The drive modes determine how many times the shutter releases when you press the shutter button. The T6s has single shooting, continuous shooting, single silent shooting, silent continuous shooting, 10-second self-timer remote control, 2-second self-timer, and continuous self-timer. To set the drive mode, simply press the drive mode button and use the touch screen or quick control dial and set button to make your selection. Note that you can also access the drive modes from the quick control screen. In single shooting drive mode, one picture will be taken when you press the shutter button completely. This is a good mode for stationary subjects. The continuous shooting drive mode will record up to 5 frames per second while the shutter button is pressed down completely. The silent single shooting drive mode is like the single shooting drive mode, except that the shutter is much quieter than the single shooting drive mode. This is a great mode to use when you don't want to disrupt quiet surroundings. The silent continuous shooting drive mode is much like the continuous shooting drive mode, but again, sound is kept to a minimum. With the silent continuous mode, the camera will record up to 3 frames per second. The 10-second self-timer remote control drive mode will take the picture 10 seconds after the shutter button has been pressed completely. Use this drive mode for times when you'd like to include yourself in the picture. This is also a mode to select if you're using an optional remote control. You want to use a tripod when you're using this drive mode. The 2-second self-timer will take the picture 2 seconds after the shutter button is pressed completely. This is a good mode to use when you're taking pictures at very slow shutter speeds and you'd like to minimize camera shake. The last drive mode is the continuous self-timer drive mode. With this mode, the camera will take between 2 and 10 pictures continuously 10 seconds after the shutter button is pressed completely. You can set the number of continuous shots using the quick control dial or touch screen. The Canon T6s has 2 great features that you can use to capture great photos and amazing HD video. Let's discuss the camera's live view and movie modes. Please note that it's important to avoid directing the camera's lens toward the sun in live view and movie modes, as this can seriously damage the camera's internal components. To shoot in live view, simply press the live view movie shooting button. In live view, you can take a picture by pressing the shutter button, or you can use the touch shutter feature, which will allow you to focus and take the picture simply by tapping the screen. To enable or disable the touch shutter feature, simply tap the touch shutter icon at the bottom corner of the screen. Before you start taking pictures in live view, you'll want to understand the live view autofocus operation and autofocus modes. In live view, you can choose from one shot and servo for the AF operation, and you can choose from 3 different AF modes, including face tracking, flexi zone multi, and FlexiZone Single. Note that the AF operations can be selected only in the camera's creative zone modes. The Live View AF modes are available in both the basic zone modes and the creative zone modes. Before you choose the Live View AF modes on the T6s, you'll want to choose the AF operation. To do this, make sure that the camera is set to one of the creative zone modes and enter the Quick Control screen using the Quick Control button or Quick Control icon. The second option on the left side of the screen is the AF operation. You can choose from one shot and servo. Choose one shot for still subjects and servo for moving subjects. After you've selected the AF operation, you'll want to select the AF mode. Simply tap the Quick Control icon or press the Quick Control button and highlight the AF method setting. Here you can use the main dial, Quick Control dial, or touch screen to choose from the 3 Live View AF modes. The first mode is face tracking. In this mode, the camera will find and focus on human faces in the scene. If a face that the camera is focusing on moves, the AF area will track the face to maintain focus. If multiple faces are detected, you can use the Quick Control dial or touch screen to select the face you'd like the camera to focus on. If the camera does not detect any faces in the scene, the focus point icon will change, indicating that the camera is now using subject tracking. To select a face or subject for the camera to track, simply tap that area of the LCD monitor. If the camera does not detect any faces or subjects to track, it will automatically switch to the FlexiZone Multi-AF mode. To focus, press the shutter button down halfway. If the camera is set to the one-shot AF operation, the AF point will turn green and a beep will sound. If the camera is set to the servo AF operation, the AF point will turn blue. Then simply press the shutter button the rest of the way to take the picture. The next AF mode in Live View is FlexiZone Multi. In this mode, you can choose to have the camera use a wide area, or you can select one of 9 AF zones. To toggle between wide area and zone, press the Set button or the Erase button. When the wide area is used with the one-shot AF operation, the camera will automatically focus using one or several of the AF points when the shutter button is pressed halfway. If the camera does not focus on the desired subject, you can use one of the 9 zones. When zone is selected, you can use the top, bottom, and sides of the Quick Control dial or touch screen to select the desired zone. When one of the zones is selected, the camera will use only the AF points that are in the selected zone for focus. If servo AF operation is selected, the AF point will track the subject regardless of the zone that has been selected. Again, press the shutter button down halfway. When the AF points appear in green and the beep sounds, press the shutter button the rest of the way to take the picture. The last AF mode is FlexiZone Single. With this mode, a single AF point is used to focus the subject, which makes it easy to focus exactly where you intended. You can use the top, bottom, and sides of the Quick Control dial or touch screen to place the AF point anywhere on the screen. Then simply press the shutter button halfway down, and the AF point turns green or blue depending on the AF operation that is selected. Then simply press the shutter button the rest of the way to take the picture. By default, your camera is set to use continuous AF when in Live View. If you'd like to disable the continuous AF to conserve battery life, this can be done through the camera's menu system. In the Live View shooting menu, select Continuous AF and select Disable. The T6s has a great feature to help you get great focus when using manual focus in Live View. You can use the camera's magnified view to see the exact area you're focusing on. Here's how you use the magnified view with manual focus in Live View. First, frame the image on the LCD monitor. Then, set the focus switch on the lens to MF. Now, you can press the Magnify button, or you can tap the Magnified View icon on the touchscreen. Pressing the button once will activate the magnified view. Pressing the button a second time will zoom up to 5 times, and pressing the button a third time will zoom 10 times. Use the top, bottom, and sides of the Quick Control dial to scroll to the area that you would like in focus. Rotate the focus ring on the lens until the magnified area is in sharp focus. Then press the shutter button completely to take the picture. When you're finished using manual focus, you'll want to set the switch on the lens back to AF. In the default live view screen, several important shooting settings are displayed on screen. Note that several items displayed will vary depending on the shooting mode that you've selected. We'll be showing the information that is displayed when the camera is set to manual mode. Here you'll see the touch shutter icon, the shutter speed, the aperture, the exposure scale, the ISO setting, and the magnified view icon. At the top of the screen, you'll see the possible shots, the battery check, and the quick control icon. To show another information display, press the info button. In addition to the settings that were previously displayed, you'll see the shooting mode, the AF operation, the AF mode, the drive mode, the metering mode, the image recording quality, the white balance setting, the picture style, the auto lighting optimizer setting, the creative filter, and the exposure simulation icon. Pressing the info button again will display a real-time histogram of the scene to help you monitor the overall brightness. Pressing the info button again will display an electronic level, which will indicate whether the camera is level in both the forward, backward, and side-to-side positions. And pressing the info button again will remove all the icons from the display. In live view, you can access the quick control screen to change a variety of shooting settings. To access the quick control screen, press the quick control button. You can use the quick control dial or touchscreen to make selections. With the T6s, you can apply creative filters to your images in live view. To do this, enter the quick control screen and select Creative Filter option. You can choose from 7 different filters. First, there is grainy black and white, which will convert your photos to black and white and allow you to choose from 3 levels of control for the contrast of your photo. After you have made your selection, simply take the picture. Next, there is soft focus. This filter will give the image a soft look, and it also has 3 different levels of effect for you to choose from. Next, there is the fisheye filter. Applying this filter to an image will mimic the effect of a fisheye lens. Next, there is Art Bold. The Art Bold filter will create an effect that is vibrant and will make the image appear 3-dimensional with the look of an oil painting. Next, there is the water painting effect filter, which will give the image the look of a watercolor painting with soft colors. There are 3 levels of color density to choose from. Next, there is the toy camera filter. This filter mimics the effect of toy cameras, which will give the image an aged color tone of your choice, and it will darken the edges of the image. The last filter is the miniature effect. This filter will give the image a look of a diorama, where only a specific area of the frame is in focus. You can adjust the in-focus area with the quick control dial, and you can change the orientation of the in-focus area by pressing the Playback Magnify button. In addition to live view, your T6s also is capable of shooting high-quality HD video. To use the camera's movie mode, set the power switch to the movie icon. When shooting movies, use an SD Speed Class 6 memory card or higher. If a slower memory card is used, the movie may not be properly recorded. While shooting movies or in live view, be sure not to point the lens directly into the sun, as it may damage the camera's components. To access the camera's movie recording settings, first make sure the power switch is set to movie, then enter the camera's menu system and navigate to the second movie menu. Here, select the movie recording size option. Just like capturing still photos, you can set the camera to record video at different resolutions or recording sizes. The T6s has 3 resolution settings: 1920 by 1080, 1280 by 720, and 640 by 480. Each of these recording sizes have different frame rate options. Choosing one of three options on the left, 1920 by 1080, will allow you to capture full HD video. Use this when you want the highest resolution video the camera is capable of recording. The difference between these options is the frame rate and compression method. You can select either 29.97 frames per second, or you can select 23.98 frames per second. If you choose 29.97 frames per second, your movie will look like the video that you would see on television. If you choose the 23.98 frames per second, your movie will closely imitate the look that you would get if you were using a film video camera. This option is for light compression, which will compress multiple frames at a time for more efficient recording and smaller file sizes. The 1280 by 720 option is good for times when you want to have high quality video, but it doesn't need to be full HD. The frame rates for this recording size are 59.94 or 29.97 frames per second. The 59.94 frames per second frame rate is good for recording fast action video. The 29.97 frames per second option has a light compression method. The last option is the 640 by 480. This is a lower resolution setting that is good for when you know you only want to use the movie for emailing or posting online. This recording size will use the 29.97 frames per second frame rate, and you can choose between standard and light compression. The purpose or use of the finished video will help you decide which recording size and frame rate to use. Keep in mind that the higher the resolution, the larger the file sizes will be. Now that we've discussed movie recording size options, let's talk about how to actually record movies with the T6s. Note that hand-holding the camera during movie recording can cause blurry movies due to camera shake. For sharp and clear movies, consider using a tripod. First, you'll need to select the shooting mode. If the mode dial is set to any mode except manual, the camera will automatically select the exposure for movie recording. In manual mode, you will have access to the same exposure controls for shutter speed, aperture, and ISO as you do in still shooting. When shooting movies with moving subjects, it's a good idea to keep the shutter speed in the range of 1/30th of a second to 1/125th of a second. If you use a faster shutter speed, the motion will not appear as smooth. Make sure that the power switch is set to movie. Then focus using the methods that we have discussed in the live view shooting section of the guide. And to start recording, press the movie shooting button. While the movie is recording, the recording movie icon will be displayed on the top corner of the screen. If you'd like to shoot a still image while recording a movie, simply press the shutter button completely. The movie file will have a still moment that will last about 1 second at the time the still image was taken. To end recording, press the movie shooting button again. To view a movie that you have recorded, press the playback button, and if necessary, use the quick control dial to find the movie that you would like to play, press the set button to enter the playback mode, and press the set button again to play the movie. You can control the volume of the sound that is played back with the main dial. With the T6s, you have the ability to edit movies within the movie playback. At the point that you would like to have the movie clip start or end, press the set button to pause the movie. Then use the touchscreen or quick control dial to select Edit from the playback mode options, indicated by the scissors icon. Here you can select Cut Beginning or Cut End to choose whether you'd like to remove the beginning or end of the clip. Press Set. Now you can use the sides of the quick control dial to fast forward or rewind the movie. The portion of your movie that is shown in the white in the playback position bar is what will remain. Press Set and select Save. Here you can choose New File, Overwrite, or Cancel. We'll select New File, press Set and select OK, and press Set again. Note that selecting Overwrite will erase the original movie and replace it with the edited version. To record sound in movie mode, the T6s has a built-in microphone, which will record sound automatically by default. If you'd like to change the microphone sensitivity or turn off sound recording, You can do this through the camera's menu system. Enter the camera's second movie menu and select Sound Recording. Here, you can select Auto, Manual, or Disable. If you select Manual, you can adjust the recording level to suit your needs. You can also choose whether or not you'd like the wind filter or attenuator to be enabled. If you're shooting movies outdoors in windy conditions, enabling the wind filter will reduce the noise caused by wind. If there's no wind, or you're shooting indoors, you'll want to disable the filter, as the sound will be more natural than it would be if the filter were enabled. When enabled, the attenuator will allow you to cut back the audio gain. If you're shooting a concert, for example, and the audio levels are clipping, you can enable and adjust the attenuator to bring the audio to an acceptable range. When you're using the movie mode, the information display will appear much the same as it does for live view. The only difference is the Servo AF icon at the bottom of the screen. This icon indicates whether or not the camera is using Movie Servo AF. When enabled, Movie Servo AF will allow you to record a movie while continuously focusing on the subject. You can pause and resume Movie Servo AF by simply tapping the icon. A unique feature on the T6s is Video Snapshot. This feature allows you to create a series of short 2, 4, or 8-second video clips and then save them into an album on the memory card. The clips in the Video Snapshot album can be combined to create an interesting and creative short movie. Let's take a look at the Video Snapshot feature on the T6s. First, we'll need to make sure that the feature is enabled using the camera's menu system. We'll navigate to the second movie shooting menu and select Video Snapshot. Here, we'll select Enable. Now, we'll select Album Settings. We'll want to create a new album, and here we can select the snapshot length. Now we'll select OK. To create the first video snapshot, we'll press the shutter button halfway to focus, and then press the movie shooting button to begin recording. When the snapshot has finished recording, the camera will prompt you with options to save as an album, playback the snapshot, and do not save as album. Select Save as Album. The camera will return to the movie shooting screen, and you can record the next snapshot. Now the options are Add to Album, Save as New Album, Playback Video Snapshot, and Delete without saving to album. We'll select Add to Album. You can shoot up to 8 video snapshots to be combined into an album. To playback or edit an album, press the Playback button and use the quick control dial to select the album to play back. Video snapshot albums have a video snapshot icon at the top corner of the playback screen. Playing and editing albums is done in the same way as playing and editing normal movie files. The T6s has a large LCD monitor where you can review images, adjust menu settings, and access the quick control screen. There are many options available for previewing images, and many of the camera's settings can easily be accessed through the quick control screen. Let's discuss how to use these camera features. For basic playback of your images on the camera's LCD monitor, simply press the Playback button. To scroll through the images, you can use the quick control dial, or you can swipe the touch screen. If you'd like to jump forward or backward 10 images, you can rotate the main dial. You can change the jump function of the main dial in the quick control screen or playback menu. If you have a large number of images recorded on the memory card, you may find that it's faster to find the photos that you would like to view if you display multiple photos on the screen at once. To do this, you can press the Image Index Reduce button, or you can pinch the image on the screen. 4 images will be displayed on the monitor. You can press the Image Index Reduce button or pinch the image screen again to display 9 images. Pressing the button again will display 36 images, and pressing the button once more will display 100 images. You can use the quick control dial or touchscreen to scroll through the images, and you can press the set button for a full screen view of an image. As discussed, you can also magnify images on the LCD monitor. This is especially useful when you want to check for good focus in detail areas of the photo. You can press the magnify button, or you can pinch outward across the touchscreen to zoom the image. You can press the magnify button multiple times to increase the level of zoom. Then you can use the top, bottom, and sides of the quick control dial to scroll top to bottom and side to side of the photo. If you rotate the quick control dial or main dial, you can scroll through the images on the card at the same level of magnification. As you're scrolling through photos in the camera's playback, you may find some images that you'd like to protect from being accidentally erased. To protect an image, press the quick control button and select the protect icon, indicated by a key, and enable. A small protect icon will appear at the top of the image. When you're finished, press the quick control button to exit the screen. If you find a photo that didn't turn out, you can remove it from the memory card by pressing the erase button. When the dialog appears, select erase and press set, and the image will be removed from the memory card. Note that once an image is erased, it cannot be recovered. You can also rotate your images for viewing on the LCD monitor and computer. To do this, press the quick control button and select the rotate image option. Here you can choose whether to rotate the image left or right. Another useful playback feature in the quick control screen is image rating. With this feature, you can assign a star rating to images and movies on the memory card. You can apply one of 5 different star ratings to your images, which is helpful when you're sorting them for printing, archiving, and deleting. Also, in the quick control screen, you can apply creative filters to your photos. You can choose from the same 7 options that are available in live view, including grainy black and white, soft focus, fisheye, art bold, water painting effect, toy camera, and miniature effect. With each of the filters, you can press set to view the options for that filter. Use the quick control dial to make adjustments, and press set to save the image as a new file. When prompted, select OK and select OK again to confirm. For the miniature effect filter, you can adjust the in-focus area with the quick control dial, and you can change the orientation of the in-focus area by pressing the info button. The next option in the playback quick control screen is resize, where you can create a smaller copy of an image and save it to the memory card. On the right side of the playback quick control screen, the top icon will exit the quick control screen and resume normal playback. Next, there is cropping, which will allow you to save a cropped version of the image to the memory card. After you press set, you can rotate the quick control dial to adjust the aspect ratio. Press the playback magnify button to adjust the size of the crop, and press the info button to rotate the crop horizontally or vertically. Press set to save a copy to the memory card. The next option is AF point display, which will simply show the AF points that were used when the picture was taken. Next, there is image jump setting. By default, the image jump feature will jump 10 images when the main dial is rotated in playback mode. With this option, you can change the function of the image jump feature. You can choose from display images one by one, jump 10 images, jump 100 images, display by date, display by folder, display movies only, display stills only, and display by image rating. The last icon on the quick control display is Wi-Fi, which is available only when the camera's Wi-Fi is enabled in the setup menu. Now let's take a look at the different playback displays on the T6s. The first and default playback screen is the No Information screen, and it's simply a full screen display of the image. Additional information about the image can be viewed by pressing the info button. Each time the info button is pressed, a different set of information will be displayed. The next display option is the basic information display. Here you can see the shutter speed, aperture, ISO, and image quality. At the top of the screen, you will see the image number out of the total number of images, the battery check, the Wi-Fi indicator, and the folder number and file number. Pressing the info button again will show the shooting information display. In addition to the information that was shown in the basic information display, you will see the histogram of the image, which gives the basic idea of the tone distribution of the image. If the histogram data is shifted toward the left side of the graph, the image will probably be dark or underexposed. If the histogram is shifted toward the right side of the graph, the image will be too bright or overexposed. In most cases, a properly exposed photo will have the data distributed over the whole graph. The histogram will help you have a basic idea of the overall exposure of your image when you're outdoors in bright sunlight and the photos are difficult to see on the LCD monitor. In the shooting information display, you will also see the shooting mode, shutter speed, aperture, ISO, white balance setting, picture style, metering mode, auto lighting optimizer setting, image quality, and the size of the image file. You can view additional information by pressing the bottom of the quick control dial. Here you'll see the lens name and the focal length, and this is the RGB histogram, which shows the histograms for each of the red, green, and blue color channels. Here you can see the areas in any of the individual channels that are shifted to the left, showing the dark tones in that channel, or shifted to the right, showing the lighter tones in that color channel. If any of the channels have distribution that is shifted too far to the right, that color channel will be oversaturated and show little or no detail. And if any of the channels have distribution that is shifted too far to the left, that channel will lack color information. Pressing the bottom of the quick control dial again will show the white balance information. Here you can see the white balance setting, and this is the white balance grid. Pressing the bottom of the quick control dial again shows the picture style information, where you can see the picture style that was used when the image was taken, as well as each of the picture style parameters. Pressing the bottom of the quick control dial again will show the color space noise reduction information. This is the color space setting, the long exposure noise reduction setting, and the high ISO noise reduction setting. Pressing the bottom of the quick control dial once more will display the lens aberration correction information, and pressing the bottom of the quick control dial again will return you to the original shooting information display. Let's discuss the focus modes that are available on the T6s. When you're choosing the focus mode, the main thing that you'll want to think about is whether or not the subject is in motion. The Canon T6s has a sophisticated autofocus system with a variety of autofocus modes and AF area selection modes that, when used well together, will help you get great focus regardless of what type of subject you're photographing. Understanding how all of the modes and areas work together might seem a little confusing, but this chapter of the guide will help you know when to use each autofocus mode as well as each autofocus area mode. Let's first discuss the camera's three autofocus modes: one shot, AI focus, and AI servo. To choose an autofocus mode on the T6s, press the AF button and then use the touchscreen, main dial, or quick control dial and set button to make your selection. You can also access and change the focus mode using the quick control screen. Press the quick control button and use the quick control dial to navigate to the AF mode setting. Here you can use the main dial to scroll through the options. The first focus mode is one shot, and it's best suited for stationary subjects. Choose this mode when you're photographing objects or when you're doing portrait work with an older child or adult. When focus is achieved, the AF point that achieved focus will appear in the viewfinder, and the focus confirmation light in the viewfinder will light. The AI Servo AF mode is best for shooting moving subjects, and it's for use when the focusing distance keeps changing. Use this mode when you're photographing sporting events, smaller children, or animals. While you hold down the shutter button halfway, the subject will be focused continuously. In the AI focus mode, the focus mode automatically switches from one-shot AF to AI servo. After the subject is focused in the one-shot AF mode, if the subject starts moving, the camera will detect the movement and will change the AF mode automatically to AI servo. The last of the focusing modes is the manual focus or MF mode. To use the camera's manual focus, simply switch the focus mode switch on the lens to MF. This gives you the control to manually focus on any subject through the viewfinder by using the focus ring. Before we begin discussing the autofocus area selection modes, please note that the autofocus modes and autofocus area selection modes are different settings but function together. Understanding how they work together will help your images have great focus. To choose the AF area selection mode, press the AF area selection button or the AF point selection button. You can use the touch screen or press the AF area selection button to toggle through the options. There are 3 AF area selection modes: manual selection single, manual selection zone, and automatic selection. The manual AF area selection single point mode is great for when you want to manually select and focus on a small area, such as the subject's eye, or another small object. With this mode, you select one of the camera's 19 focus points that you'd like to use. With the manual selection zone AF mode, the 19 AF points are divided into sections or zones. All of the points in the selected zone are used for autofocus, and the camera will focus on the nearest subject within the selected zone. This is a good mode to use for moving subjects, but since the camera automatically focuses on the nearest subject, it may be more difficult to focus on a very specific subject. The last AF area selection mode is Auto AF Point Selection. In this mode, all 19 AF points will be used for autofocus. The way that this mode works depends on the AF mode that you've selected. If you're using one-shot AF, the camera will use the AF point that is over the nearest subject. If you're using AI servo AF, you'll select the starting AF point, and if the subject moves away from that point, the camera will automatically use other AF points to track the subject. Sometimes a photo may have poor focus, but it's not related to the camera's focus mode or focus area mode. Camera shake happens when the camera moves when the shutter is open. This exposes the image sensor while the camera is moving and results in blurry images. Always try to steady the camera. Holding it with 2 hands and pressing the viewfinder gently against your face will help. You can also lean against something or use a tripod, a monopod, or even a beanbag to steady your camera. You can also reduce the effect of camera shake by selecting a fast shutter speed. This reduces the amount of time the image sensor is exposed to shaky conditions. A helpful rule of thumb is to set the shutter speed to 1 over the focal length. Confusing? Let me explain. If the focal length on your lens is 300 millimeters, for example, you should set your shutter speed to at least 1/300th of a second. If the focal length is 30 millimeters, you might get by using a shutter speed as low as 1/30th of a second. Let's take a look at the T6s's sophisticated menu system. Depending on what shooting mode you're using, different menus and menu items will appear. We'll be showing the menu options that are available in the camera's creative zone modes. Many of these settings are discussed in greater detail in other chapters of this guide. We'll just look at an overview of the menu items in this chapter. The first 3 menu tabs are the shooting menus, indicated by their red color and the small camera icon. The shooting menus are where you'll find all of the settings that are related to the camera's operation when taking still photographs. Let's look at each of the shooting menu items. First, there is the image quality, where you can choose from a variety of image qualities and sizes. The next options allow you to enable or disable the beep sound that is heard when the camera focuses. The release shutter without card option determines whether or not the camera will allow you to take a picture if there is not an SD memory card inserted. In the image review option, you can choose how long you'd like the image to be displayed on the LCD monitor immediately after it's taken. You can choose off, the image will not be displayed at all, 2, 4, or 8 seconds, or you can choose hold. With the hold option, the image will be displayed until the camera automatically goes into sleep mode. The next option is lens aberration correction. This setting will allow you to adjust the settings for peripheral illumination correction, chromatic aberration correction, and distortion. The peripheral illumination correction will reduce the vignetting effect that is caused by some lenses. The chromatic aberration correction will reduce the appearance of the color fringe around the edges of subjects in images. The distortion correction will reduce the pinched or bloated effect that is caused by certain lenses. The red eye reduction option enables or disables red eye reduction when the camera's flash is used. The flash control function settings contains all of the settings for the camera's built-in flash unit, as well as settings for using an optional external flash. The second shooting menu begins with the exposure compensation bracketing setting. Here you can choose the exposure compensation setting, and below that you can choose the bracketing increment. Next, there is the auto lighting optimizer setting, which will allow you to choose disable, low, standard, or high. When enabled, the auto lighting optimizer will improve detail in shadow and highlight areas of the image. The custom white balance setting will allow you to create a custom white balance for optimal color in your images. The next option is the white balance shift bracketing setting. Here you can make adjustments to the white balance correction and white balance bracketing. Next, there is the color space setting with two options, sRGB and Adobe RGB. Some photographers prefer the sRGB mode as it requires less processing later. Other photographers prefer the Adobe RGB mode as this mode has a wider range of colors, making it a preferred option for images that will be extensively processed on the computer. The next menu item is the picture style setting. Here you can choose from 7 preset picture style settings and 3 user-defined picture style settings. The final menu item in the second shooting menu is metering mode, which will simply allow you to choose the metering mode. The third shooting menu begins with the dust delete data setting. Using this setting combined with the software that was included with your camera will automatically remove any dust spots on the image sensor from your images. The ISO auto setting will allow you to choose the maximum ISO you'd like the camera to select when the ISO is set to auto. The long exposure noise reduction setting will allow you to select the level of noise reduction for long exposures, and the high ISO noise reduction setting will allow you to choose the level of noise reduction for high ISOs. Next, there is aspect ratio, which will allow you to choose from 3:2, 4:3, 16:9, and 1:1. If you're planning on making 4:6 prints of your images, you want to leave the aspect ratio set to 3:2. The last option is anti-flicker shooting. When enabled, anti-flicker shooting will detect the frequency of the light source and take the picture when the flicker will cause the least effect on exposure and color. Use this setting with fluorescent or mercury vapor lights. The next menu is the Live View Shooting menu. It begins with the Live View Shooting option. Here you can choose to have Live View Shooting enabled or disabled. The next menu option is the Live View Autofocus method, followed by the Continuous AF option. When enabled, Continuous AF will continuously focus while the camera is in live view. The next menu item is Touch Shutter. When enabled, Touch Shutter will allow you to simply tap the screen to focus and take the picture in live view. Next, there is Grid Display. With the Grid Display, you can have a grid shown on the camera's LCD monitor while in live view. This can be useful for creating interesting compositions or for making sure that the horizon line is straight. The last menu item is the metering timer, which allows you to choose how long the exposure setting is displayed. Now let's take a look at the camera's playback menus, indicated by their blue color and the small play button icon. In the first playback menu, the first three options are for protecting photos, rotating photos, and erasing photos. Next, there is an option for choosing the print order of images if you're connecting the camera to a compatible printer. The next menu item is Photo Book Setup. With this option, you can select images to be copied to a specific folder on your computer using the supplied software. This makes it easier to create and print a photo book. The next menu option is for creative filters, where you can choose to have one of 7 filter effects applied to a photo. And finally, there is the resize option, where you can reduce the size of an image and save it as a copy on the camera's memory card. In the second playback menu, the first option is cropping, where you can crop an image and save a copy to the memory card. Next, there is rating, which will allow you to apply star ratings to your images. With the slideshow setting, you can choose to have the images on your memory card played as a slideshow. This feature is especially useful when the camera is connected to a TV. The next menu item is the image jump, where you can choose one of 8 options for scrolling through your photos on the LCD monitor. Next, there is AF point display, which will allow you to choose whether or not you'd like to display the AF point or points that were used to focus over the image in playback mode. The histogram display option allows you to choose whether you'd like to see the brightness histogram or the RGB histogram when you're in the playback mode. The control over HDMI setting will allow you to use the compatible TV's remote control for playback operations when the camera is connected to the TV using an HDMI cable. The 4 setup menus have important settings for the basic operation and function of the camera. The first menu option in the first setup menu is the Select Folder option, where you can create and select a specific folder for your images to be saved on the memory card. This is useful if you'd like to have images from various events on a vacation, for instance, saved to different locations on the memory card. The next menu item is File Numbering. With this menu item, you can choose how you'd like the image files to be numbered when the memory card is replaced or formatted. The Auto Rotate option will allow you to have vertical images automatically rotate on the LCD monitor and computer screen for easier viewing. Next, there is Format Card, which simply allows you to format the camera's memory card. With Wi-Fi NFC, you can enable or disable the camera's built-in Wi-Fi and NFC features. Under Wi-Fi function, you can choose from several Wi-Fi options, including transfer images, connect to smartphone, print from Wi-Fi printer, upload to web service, and view images on DLNA devices. The second setup menu begins with Auto Power Off, where you can choose how long you want the camera to be idle before automatically powering off. You can choose from 7 different options. Next, there is LCD Brightness option, where you can choose one of 7 different brightness levels for the LCD monitor. The next menu item is LCD Auto Off. When enabled, LCD Auto Off will turn the LCD monitor off when the eye is brought to the viewfinder. If Disable is selected, the LCD monitor will not turn off when the viewfinder is covered. The next 2 items allow you to set the camera's date, time, time zone, and language for the menus and displays. Next, there is Viewfinder Display with options for electronic level, grid display, and flicker detection. Electronic level will display a level indicator at the bottom corner of the viewfinder. Grid display will allow you to display a framing grid in the viewfinder, and flicker detection will allow you to display a warning in the viewfinder if the camera detects flicker in the light source. Next, there is GPS device settings, which will allow you to configure the camera for use with an optional GPS unit. The third setup menu begins with Screen Color. With this option, you can choose the color for the information display. Next, there is Feature Guide. When enabled, the Feature Guide will provide a description of the selected setting or option on the quick control screen or in live view. The touch control setting will allow you to disable the touch screen function of the LCD monitor. Next, there is the battery info option, which will display information about the battery performance and remaining capacity. Next, there is the sensor cleaning option. You can choose from 3 different options for cleaning the camera's image sensor. Next, there is Info Button Display options, which will allow you to choose which displays you'd like shown on the LCD monitor when the info button is pressed. The last option is Video System, where you can choose whether your movie files will be recorded in NTSC or PAL. If you're in the United States, you'll want to choose NTSC. The fourth setup menu begins with Certification Logo Display, which will display some of the camera's certifications. Next, there is Custom Functions option, where you can customize a variety of camera functions to your liking. Next, there is the Copyright Information setting. With this setting, you can enter your own copyright information, which will be part of the image data for every photo that you take. The Clear Settings option will allow you to reset the camera to factory default settings, and the Firmware Version setting is for updating the camera's firmware. The final menu is the My menu, indicated by the green color and the small star icon. With this menu, you can save frequently used menu items so that you can find them quickly and easily. To register a menu item to the My menu, select My Menu Settings and then Register to My Menu, and scroll to the menu item that you would like to add. Press Set to select the menu item, highlight OK, and press Set again to save the item to My Menu. Press the menu button twice to return to the My Menu, and you'll see the items that you registered listed in the options. The Canon T6s includes several features that will allow you to fine-tune and enhance the color and tone of your images, as well as apply creative effects. In this chapter, we'll discuss white balance, ambient settings, picture styles, and the auto lighting optimizer. White balance is determined by the color temperature of light sources, which is measured in degrees Kelvin. The higher color temperatures, measured in the area of 5600 Kelvin to 7500 Kelvin, represent situations like a sunlit or cloudy day. These shooting situations have a greater amount of blue tones and a lesser amount of red tones. Lower color temperature situations are measured in the area of 3500 Kelvin down to 1900 Kelvin and are found in lighting situations like standard lighting from a tungsten light bulb or candlelight. These types of shooting situations are found on the lower end of the spectrum and produce greater amount of red tones and lesser amounts of blue tones. To access the white balance settings, press the white balance button and rotate the quick control dial or the main dial to make your selection. You can also set the white balance in the quick control screen. Press the quick control button and use the quick control dial or touch screen to select the white balance setting. Rotate the main dial or quick control dial to scroll through the settings, or press Set to view the options. The first option is Auto White Balance. With this setting, the camera will attempt to automatically adjust the color temperature. The next white balance setting is Daylight. Daylight is a great setting for taking pictures in the sunlight. This setting is marked with a sun icon. Use the Shade setting when you're taking pictures in the shade. It reduces the bluish tones in a picture. This setting is marked with an icon of a house with shade. Use the Cloudy setting when you're taking pictures on days that are overcast. This is marked with a cloud icon. The next white balance setting is tungsten light. This is a good setting to use when you're taking pictures under common light bulbs. It reduces the reddish tones in a picture. This setting is marked with a light bulb icon. The white fluorescent light setting is great for taking pictures under common fluorescent lighting. The next setting is the flash setting. Use this setting when you're using the built-in or an external flash unit. The next icon is the custom white balance option. Use this setting when you have manually set the white balance for a specific light source for the best accuracy. Let's walk through setting a custom white balance for the T6s. First, you'll need to take a picture of a plain white object in the lighting that you're shooting under. You can use a white card, an object like a shirt, or a piece of paper to get good results. Now you'll need to set that image as the custom white balance reference. This is done in the menu system under the second shooting menu. Here, select Custom White Balance and select the photo of the white object. Press Set and select OK. Then press Set again to confirm the custom white balance setting. With the T6s, you can fine-tune any of the white balance settings to give the same effect that you would get from the color compensating filter. To do this, select White Balance, Shift bracket in the Quick Control screen. Now you can use the top, bottom, and sides of the Quick Control dial to position the cursor in the grid. Placing the cursor toward the A will increase the amber in the image. Placing the cursor toward the G will increase the green in the image. Placing the cursor toward the B will increase the blue in the image. And placing the cursor toward the M will increase the magenta in the image. Rotating the Quick Control dial will allow you to bracket the white balance. You can bracket the blue and amber tones or the green and magenta tones. The camera's ambient settings are available in many of the basic zone modes, and they will allow you to adjust and enhance the color, contrast, and sharpness. To make adjustments to an ambient setting, make sure that the camera is set to any of the basic zone modes except Scene Intelligent Auto, Flash Off, or HDR Backlight. Then press the Quick Control button to access the Quick Control screen. The top option is where you can select Ambient Setting. There are 9 different options. First, there is the standard setting. When this setting is selected, only the characteristics of that specific shooting mode will be applied. Next, there is the vivid setting, which will make the image more sharp and vivid. For all of the ambient settings, except standard, you can adjust the intensity of the effect. You can select low, standard, or strong. Next, there is the soft setting, which will make the subject look softer. This is a good setting for portraits, pets, and flowers. Next, there is the warm setting, which will make the image appear softer with warm colors. Next, there is the intense setting, which will decrease the overall brightness. This will help the subject be more emphasized. Next, there is the cool setting. With this setting, the overall brightness is slightly decreased. The image will have a cool color cast. Next, there is the brighter setting. This setting will simply increase the brightness of the image. Next, there is the darker setting, which will simply decrease the brightness of the image. The last ambient setting is monochrome, which will allow you to take pictures in black and white, sepia, or blue tone. Picture styles are an intuitive way for you to tell the camera what levels of sharpness, contrast, saturation, and color tone that you would like for your specific shooting scenario. Note that the picture styles are available only when the camera is set to one of the creative zone modes. There are 7 different preset picture styles, and you can make adjustments to settings in each of them. To access the picture styles, press the Picture Style button, then use the Quick Control dial, Main dial, or touchscreen to select a picture style. First, there is the Auto Picture Style. This is a good general use picture style. The camera will automatically adjust color tone to fit the scene you're photographing. This is a good picture style for photos of greenery, nature, outdoor, and sunset scenes. The standard picture style is also a good general use picture style, and it's suitable for most scenes. Images taken with this picture style will look vivid, sharp, and crisp. The portrait picture style is great for photos of people, particularly close-ups. It offers pleasant skin tones and makes the image appear a little softer. The landscape picture style is good for taking pictures of scenery outdoors. This picture style makes the greens and blues in the image more vivid. The neutral picture style is a good setting to choose if you wish to process your images with your computer. Colors in this picture style are natural and subdued. The faithful picture style is also a good setting to choose if you are processing your images with your computer. When shooting under normal daylight, the color is adjusted to match the subject's color. The image is overall dull and subdued. The monochrome picture style is useful when you would like to take black and white photographs. Note, unless you're shooting in RAW, images taken in this setting cannot be converted to color later. All of these picture styles are fully customizable. Select a picture style that you'd like to customize and press the Info button. You can make changes to the sharpness, contrast, saturation, and color tone. Select a parameter that you would like to make adjustments to and press Set. Now use the Quick Control dial to adjust the setting. Press Set to confirm the adjustment or press the menu button to cancel. In addition to the 7 preset picture styles, there are also 3 user-defined picture style options. These options allow you to select and adjust a picture style to your liking and save it for future use. Registering a user-defined picture style is very similar to customizing a picture style, but with a few minor changes. First, select a user-defined picture style and press the Info button. Press Set to choose a base picture style. Now use the Set button and Quick Control dial to make adjustments to any of the parameters. When you're finished, press Menu to save changes as a user-defined picture style. Now let's discuss the T6s's Auto Lighting Optimizer. With this feature, you can improve contrast and detail in shadow areas of your photo automatically when the camera is set to one of the creative zone modes. You can access the Auto Lighting Optimizer in the Quick Control screen. Press the Quick Control button and select the Auto Lighting Optimizer setting. Here you can select Disable, Low, Standard, or High. If you choose Low, some shadow areas will be improved. If you select High, most of the shadow areas will be improved. You can press the Info button to enable or disable the Auto Lighting Optimizer when the camera is set in the manual mode. Images may have increased noise with this feature, depending on the scenario. Also, if you're using exposure compensation to darken the image while the Auto Lighting Optimizer is active, the exposure compensation may not work as intended, and you may need to disable the Auto Lighting Optimizer. Your T6s has a powerful built-in flash that can provide you with extra light in certain shooting scenarios. As a general rule, you'll want to keep your subject within about 3.5 to 20 feet for best results. To use the built-in flash in the creative zone modes, simply press the flash button and the flash will pop up. In the basic zone modes, the built-in flash will pop up and fire automatically in low light or backlight conditions. In flash off mode, landscape mode, sports mode, and HDR backlight mode, the flash will not fire. If you're using the flash and you find that the image is too bright or too dark, you can use flash exposure compensation to make adjustments. To set the flash exposure compensation, press the Quick Control button and use the Quick Control dial to select the flash exposure compensation icon and press Set. Rotate the Quick Control dial or the main dial to adjust the intensity of the flash. If you move the indicator toward the minus side of the scale, the flash will produce less light. If you move the indicator toward the plus side of the scale, the flash will produce more light. Now, press the shutter button halfway to exit the screen. Now, simply take the picture. The built-in Wi-Fi feature on the T6s will allow you to wirelessly share your images in a variety of ways. You can connect to a smartphone, transfer images between cameras, print images using a Wi-Fi printer, save images to a Canon Connect station, and view images using a media player. Note that when Wi-Fi is enabled, the movie shooting function will be disabled. Let's first discuss how to configure the camera for wireless operation. The first step is to enable the Wi-Fi function in the camera's menu system. Enter the first setup menu and select Wi-Fi NFC. Here, select Enable. Next, you'll need to set a nickname for the camera to use when it's connected wirelessly to another device or local area network. Here, you can use the touchscreen or main dial, quick control dial, and Set button to enter a nickname. When you're finished, press the Menu button. When the next dialog pops up, select OK. Now, select Wi-Fi function in the Setup menu, where there are several options for using the Wi-Fi on your camera. The first wireless function is Transfer Images Between Camera. This feature can be used when you have a second Wi-Fi enabled camera that is compatible with the Wi-Fi feature on the T6s. The second wireless function is Connect to Smartphone. With this feature, you can view your images from the memory card on your smartphone. You can also use the smartphone to control the camera remotely. The next wireless function is Print Images with a Wi-Fi printer. With this feature, you can easily print images directly from the memory card without removing the card from your camera or connecting the camera to the printer with a cable. The next wireless function is Upload to Web Service. With this feature, you can share your images online quickly without removing your memory card from the camera. The last wireless function is View Images on DLNA devices. With this feature, you'll be able to view your images on a compatible TV using a DLNA-supported media player. Now let's walk through step by step how to configure the camera to use the Connect to Smartphone feature. Before you begin connecting your camera to your smartphone, you'll need to have the Canon Camera Connect app installed on your phone. This app is available in the Apple App Store and on Google Play. Once the app is installed, you're ready to connect the camera and phone. Again, in the first setup menu under Wi-Fi function, select Connect to Smartphone. Here, you'll need to select either Camera Access Point or Infrastructure Mode. If you select Camera Access Point, the camera will act as the primary device in the network you're connecting to. If you select Infrastructure Mode, the camera will act as the secondary device, and you'll need to find it within the network. We'll select Camera Access Point Mode and OK. Here, there are options for Easy Connection or Manual Connection. We'll select Easy Connection and OK. Now the camera will show an encryption key for you to use in the wireless settings on your smartphone. For iPhones, go to Settings, Wi-Fi, and select the network for your camera. When prompted, use the encryption key on the camera as the password to connect. Once the smartphone is connected, the camera will prompt you to start the Canon Camera Connect app on the smartphone. Once you launch the app, you will be prompted to select the camera on the smartphone. Then select OK on the camera. Now you can use the Canon Camera Connect app to view the images on the camera for remote shooting, or you can adjust the camera settings. If you tap the Images on the Camera button, you can scroll through the images on the screen. If you would like to save an image from the camera to the smartphone, simply tap the Save to Smartphone icon. You can also apply star ratings and delete images from the camera using these buttons. The next option in the Canon Camera Connect app is Remote Shooting. To focus on the desired subject, simply tap that area of the live view scene on the smartphone. You can adjust the exposure settings by tapping this icon. To take the picture, simply tap the shutter button in the app. Under Camera Settings, you can set the date, time, and time zone on the camera. We hope you've enjoyed learning more about your Canon T6s. We know this new information will give you enough confidence and know-how to get the most out of your camera. Remember, you can refer back to any section of this guide at any time. Just select the topics that you want to review from the main menu. Watch for more QuickPro guides on newly released cameras. Thanks for watching.